Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. The Oregon Ducks come in at number 12 in our way too early top 25. And Oregon is coming off a 10-4 season in 2021, which doesn't sound bad. But when you realize that Oregon started the year 9-1 and found themselves in the thick of the college football playoff conversation, 10-4 is a pretty big disappointment, especially when you realize they lost 3 of their last 4 games, 2 of them to Utah, 1 of them in the Pac-12 championship, and another one to Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. Mario Cristobal then jumped ship from Oregon to Miami, and now Dan Lanning is the head man in Eugene. But despite the head coaching change and despite the disappointing end to 2021, Oregon has the staff and the talent to not just get back to the Pac-12 championship, but maybe once again find themselves in the college football playoff discussion. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, become a part of our Gridiron Expert team today, and you can do that by just taking the few seconds to hit that like button, to hit that subscribe button, so you don't miss out on any of the college football content we have for you going forward. We talk college football, guys, here every single day, year round. You do not want to miss out on it if you love the sport and the game of college football. So join our team today. We want to have you and help us get to 10,000 subs. That is our goal by the end of the summer, and we believe that we can do it with the help of you guys. So we take a look at Oregon, guys. Again, it was a disappointing year for them. They beat Ohio State in week 2, skyrocketed in the rankings. They were in the top 10 forever, and by the end of the year, with only 1 loss, found themselves in the playoff discussion, fell short by losing to Utah twice in blowout fashion. Now Dan Lanning comes in with plenty of talent, though. About 15 starters expected to return for the Ducks, led by a great defense, led by none other than linebacker Noah Sewell. So this is a defense, guys, that with Dan Lanning coming in, one of the better defensive minds in the game, just helped Georgia win a national championship with one of the best defenses, not just in the nation, maybe in college football history. He comes in to lead this defense. Oregon should be loaded on that side of the ball. It's really the offense that's going to be the biggest question for the Ducks going into 2022. Namely, who's going to be their quarterback? They landed Bo Nix from Auburn in the transfer portal, but Ty Thompson is putting up a pretty good fight. Bo Nix is not guaranteed that starting job in Eugene. Ty Thompson actually the favorite for many right now to win the job in Eugene. Either way, whoever's under center of the offense has to show drastic improvement from one that was just pedestrian, just mediocre in 2021. And we believe that with the staff Oregon has in place and with the team and the talent they have, they can do just that. So we take a look at their schedule, guys. Is this an Oregon team that can get back to the Pac-12 championship game? Can they win the Pac-12 North and maybe take on Lincoln Riley and USC out of the Pac-12 South? Can Oregon get to the college football playoff? They have not been since the college football playoff began, where they got there and fell to Ohio State in the national championship game. When I take a look at their schedule, I say that the strength of schedule is there 100%. It's namely because of that one school at the top, Georgia. The Ducks will face off against Georgia in Atlanta to kick off the year. So that will be one of the most highly anticipated matchups of week 1. Obviously, has a pretty solid connection there. Dan Lanning was the defensive coordinator for Georgia just last year, and now he's going to be facing off against his former school in his first ever game as a head coach. So that's a pretty sweet moment right there in what should be a great top 15 matchup to kick off the season. The Georgia game's tough, and for us guys, that actually begins Oregon's key stretch of the year. If you're looking for a key 4 or 5 game stretch for Oregon, it starts right there with Georgia and ends on October 1st with Stanford. So really 5 games, but we think they'll take relatively easy care of Eastern Washington. So 4 solid games that for us will dictate Oregon's success in year 1 under Dan Lanning. The Georgia game is going to be tough, no doubt about it. And there will not be many people out there that are picking Oregon to win this game over the Bulldogs. But we do expect it to be relatively close and should be a relatively low-scoring game with 2 great defenses and 2 great defensive minds going at it. They then take on BYU. That's a huge other non-conference matchup and potential another top 25 team in the span of just 3 weeks. BYU, we've already talked about them in our way too early top 25. They're loaded with talent. They've got a very good coach. They've got a great schedule to go with what many have said has been a weak strength of schedule in recent years for the Cougars. And that strength of schedule is bolstered by their visit to Eugene. BYU is no slouch. Oregon cannot afford to overlook them. And I think that Eastern Washington game really benefits the Ducks here because say they were to fall to Georgia. They're battle-tested first off, but they can work out any issues they need against Eastern Washington before things really pick up against quality opponents in BYU, Washington State, and so forth. BYU, a huge moment for Dan Lanning. Oregon cannot afford to start off 1-2. Yes, none of these games are conference games. They can still get to the Pac-12 championship, but the Ducks are expecting more than that. They want more than that. A 1-2 start versus a 2-1 start is drastically different. So the Georgia and BYU games are huge. Then they get into Pac-12 play. That Washington State game is not going to be easy. Not going to be easy playing at Martin Stadium in Pullman. Not going to be easy considering the success that Washington State had down the stretch under Jake Dickert, who at the time was just the interim, but is now the head coach of the Cougars. Not going to be easy considering that they have a lot of talent coming into Pullman this year, from the transfer portal and just on the recruiting trail, period. Oregon beat the Cougars by 14 last year, 38-24. Solid, respectable victory. But in Washington State, at Pullman, I think that the Cougars could upset the Ducks. We're not predicting anything here, but this is not an easy cakewalk victory for Oregon by any means. This will be a much closer game, and the Cougars have, in recent years, put up some pretty solid fights against Oregon. So watch out for that one before Oregon takes on Stanford, the team that beat Oregon last year before they fell apart at the end. The Ducks were a top 3-5 team in the country at the time. Stanford somehow upset the Ducks 31-24 in overtime. So Oregon's certainly going to be looking to get revenge over the Cardinal. They are lucky that they get this game at home against Stanford, a team that has not been doing very well in recent years under David Shaw as compared to what they used to be back in the early 2010s. Oregon is the better team here, should be able to take care of Stanford, but we thought that again last year. That 5-game stretch, guys, again, is going to be so key for the Ducks. You know, they get their first 2 conference games, neither of which are cupcake conference teams. That's compared to a team like maybe Colorado. But, you know, you look at those games and you look at the 2 non-conference games in Georgia and BYU, it's a brutal stretch. It's a brutal stretch. And in those first 5 games, including the Eastern Washington game, Oregon really, to remain on the national stage relevance-wise, needs to be 4-1 or 5-0. That's where they need to be, and that's what I think fans expect them to be. I think anything less than 4-1 would probably be viewed as a disappointment and a rough start to the Dan Lanning era. After that, guys, I think the schedule kind of lightens up for Oregon, and really there's not a key tough stretch for them going through the rest of the year, if I'm being completely honest. They take on Arizona, who many will consider to be the worst team in the Pac-12 this season. Oregon beat the Wildcats 41-19 last year. Just can't afford to overlook them with it being in Tucson and the bye week coming up right after that. UCLA under Chip Kelly is going to be pretty solid once again. Had his best season with the Bruins last year. Expect him to continue to build things up out in LA this year, but Oregon gets the benefit of coming off a bye week and hosting the Bruins. They beat UCLA on the road last year by 3. Again, getting them at home with a week of rest will be crucial. At California, at Colorado, neither of those scare me too much for Oregon. They beat the Golden Bears by 7 last year, 24-17. Beat Colorado 52-29. Those 2 road games, you never like playing games on the road by any means. But if you had to choose a couple teams to go on the road and playing California, Colorado, Arizona, not too bad. Could be a lot worse for the Ducks. I would take those 3 road games any day as compared to playing on the road at Utah, at Washington, at USC, who they don't even play on their schedule this year. Would take those 3 teams that we just mentioned instead of those other ones any day of the week. They then get into the back half, or really the last quarter of their schedule. Washington, Utah, Oregon State, again, benefiting from a very favorable home schedule, getting Washington and Utah both in Eugene. They beat Washington last year by 10. Obviously a big rivalry game, one that Oregon has just dominated for years and years on end. They take on Utah, a team they got obliterated by not once, but twice in 2021, losing to them 38-7 at Utah and then 38-10 in the Pac-12 championship game. Oregon's certainly going to be out for revenge. I think if there's 2 teams they want to beat more than anything, it's going to be Stanford and certainly going to be Utah. But the Utes, a legitimate team, guys, not just in the Pac-12, but they are a college football playoff contender. The Pac-12 is rising. USC is improving. Obviously, Oregon is still a legitimate contender. Utah is a legitimate contender. And a handful of others that might not be national title contenders, but can contend for a conference title and can definitely dictate who is in that conference championship game. Utah, at the end of the year, is going to be huge, huge, huge for Oregon, especially if the Ducks are thriving and, like last year, are maybe undefeated or are just a one-loss team. That game against Utah will be huge and could be a preview, like it was last year, of the Pac-12 championship game. They closed out the year against Oregon State a few years ago. They fell to the Beavers. They got their revenge over them last year, beating them 38-29. But Jonathan Smith doing a phenomenal job with Oregon State, definitely improving a program that was just abysmal in the Pac-12 for many years. He is improving them greatly, and that game on the road is no pushover. That is no cupcake walk in the park for Oregon. Oregon State, especially if they're able to land someone like JT Daniels, that's still up in the air. But if they can land him, that's going to be a huge, huge game, and one that Oregon cannot take lightly, especially for Dan Lanning's first game against the Beavers. So all in all, guys, this is an Oregon team that, as we mentioned, has the coaching staff. We love the Dan Lanning hire. Has the coaching staff and the talent to once again go out there and win the Pac-12. But their success, not just in the Pac-12, but on a national standpoint, trying to get back to the college football playoff, that will be determined and that will be dictated within those first 5 games against Georgia, Eastern Washington, BYU, Washington State, and Stanford. That is the key stretch for Oregon. If they can come out of there 4-1 or 5-0, the Ducks will be legit, not just in the Pac-12, but on the national stage. If they fall short than that, many will already consider it to be a, I would say, disappointing season for Dan Lanning. But you do go through some growing pains with some brand new head coaches. Oregon might not be a lock to win the conference this year. They might not be a playoff contender, but when it's all said and done, here in a few years, you will realize that Dan Lanning was the right man for the job. He is the right man for the job. In Oregon, despite all the changes, despite some questions, despite a relatively tough schedule, especially early on, will be a contender across the board for many years to come. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. Again, become a part of our Gridiron Expert team so you do not miss out on any of the college football content we have for you going forward. And you can also help us get to 10,000 subscribers. Become a part of our team. Help us out today. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.